Hello and welcome back to Bicycle Legs and another edition of Anniversary Albums. Today we're going to be looking at albums that are having a significant anniversary in the month of August 2022. And then again, for those of you new to the channel or new to this series, when I say a significant anniversary, I'm talking about an anniversary that ends in a 5 or a 0. So 50th, 45th, 30th, 25th, that sort of thing. So let's get straight into it and look at the first album that's having a significant anniversary in the month of August. It's having its 35th anniversary. It was originally released on the 2nd of August 1987, and that is Diesel and Dust by Midnight Oil. This is the album that really broke the band internationally. They'd already been massive stars in Australia, but this one broke them internationally into being big stars overseas. Mostly because of the opening track on the album, which is Beds Are Burning, which was a huge hit. But there are other wonderful songs on this album. Put Down That Weapon is a really good song. Dream World's great, wonderful rocker. Arctic World, Warrakurna. Then on side B you get The Dead Heart, which is, to me, one of their most beautiful songs about Indigenous Australians and Indigenous relations. Whoa, Bull Roarer, Sell My Soul, and then Sometimes. Although I think the version of Sometimes that's on Screamin' Blue, the live album, is a much better version than this one. It's still a great song though, even on here. The next album we're going to have a look at is having its 30th anniversary in the month of August. It was originally released on the 3rd of August 1992, and that is Welcome to Wherever You Are by INXS. Really good album, really bad album cover. But that's just my opinion. I think that's a terrible album cover. But the CD had a slightly different album cover, which was a little bit better, but it's still not great. The big hit off this was Baby Don't Cry. Taste It was a hit as well, and Beautiful Girl. But there are other really good songs on this album too. Heaven Sent, Communication, Not Enough Time, Wishing Well, Strange Desire. It's a good album. I do tend to prefer earlier INXS, but of the latter period INXS, I think this is one of the better albums. It's a really good album. The next album is having its 55th anniversary in the month of August. It was originally released on the 5th of August 1967. It is one of the great debut albums of all time, and that is The Piper at the Gates of Dawn by Pink Floyd. The album that started it all for this incredible band. The only album, unfortunately, with the full participation of the late great Syd Barrett. He very much dominates the writing on this album and the singing. This is a wonderful, wonderful debut album, psychedelic, just incredible album of its time, and yet still sounds fresh today as far as I'm concerned. You have wonderful Astronomy Domini, Lucifer Sam, Matilda Mother, Flaming, Power, Tok H, Take Up Thy Stethoscope and Walk, the very first song that would appear on a Pink Floyd album written by Roger Waters. And then on side 2 you've got the incredible Interstellar Overdrive. Then you've got The Gnome, Chapter 24, The Scarecrow, and then it ends with Bike, which I just adore that song. Just one of the all-time great debut albums as far as I'm concerned. The next album we're going to have a look at is also a debut album, maybe not quite as iconic as this one, but I still think it's a wonderful debut album. It's having its 40th anniversary in the month of August. It was originally released on the 20th of August 1982. And that is Upstairs at Eric's by Yazoo. This is the band that Vince Clarke formed with Alison Moyet after Vince Clarke had left Depeche Mode after just one album. He ended up only doing 2 albums with Yazoo, unfortunately, and they're both wonderful albums, and then he would eventually form Erasure, which is still going to this day. But this album is wonderful. Don't Go is the opener on side 1, and then Only You is the opener on side 2. One of the just gorgeous synth pop ballads of all time, I think. I love synth pop. I grew up with it in the early 80s, and to me Yazoo were one of the best synth pop bands that were going about ever. So many other good songs on this album. Two Pieces, Bad Connection, I Before E Except After C, Midnight, In My Room, Goodbye 70s, Don't Bring Your Love Down. It's a really good album. Definitely well worth going and having a listen to, especially if you only know Yazoo for Only You or Don't Go. The next album we're going to be having a look at is having its 35th anniversary in the month of August. It was originally released on the 25th of August 1987, and that is Door to Door by the Cars. Now, those of you who may have seen my Cars studio albums ranked will know that I ranked this one at the bottom of the list. That's not to say this isn't a really good album. The Cars never did a bad album as far as I'm concerned. I think this is a really good album. It comes after the massive Heartbeat City. This one sounds a little more organic, I think, than Heartbeat City does. Produced by Rick Ocasek instead of Mutt Lange, who produced Heartbeat City. You Are the Girl was the big hit off this album, and it's a really good song, but there's other really great songs on here too. Leave or Stay, Double Trouble, Everything You Say, Strap Me In, Coming Up You, Wound Up on You. It's a really good album. Even though, as I say, it's my least favourite Cars album, it's still an album I go back to. The next album I unfortunately don't have on vinyl. It's having its 20th anniversary in the month of August. It was originally released on the 27th of August 2002, and that is Snow by Spock's Beard. The last album they did with Neil Morse before he left the band, he left just after the album. I don't even know if the album had been released or if it was just after or just before it was released. It was certainly after it had been recorded that he left the band. Concept album about a boy with sort of psychic powers, as it were. The storyline is very interesting. Unlike a lot of other concept albums, I think it actually makes quite a fair bit of sense. It is actually not a hard story to follow. But there's so many good songs on this album. I won't go through them all because there's so many. It's a double album on CD, and I think it's a triple album on vinyl. But you've got The Devil's Got My Throat, you've got Stranger in a Strange Land, you've got Love Beyond Words, Open Wide the Floodgates, Freak Boy is wonderful, Snow's Night Out, I Will Go is a beautiful song. Just a fantastic album. It's probably my second favourite Spock's Beard album after 5, which is the album immediately before it. It's certainly, for me, an absolute purple patch in the career of Spock's Beard, that sort of time with those two albums. The next album we're going to have a look at is having its 45th anniversary in the month of August. It was originally released on the 29th of August 1977, and that is Dysrhythmia by Split Enz. Their third album. Their first album with Neil Finn joining the band to join his brother Tim. Although Neil takes pretty much a backseat on this album. He basically just plays guitar on this album. He doesn't do any of the songwriting or the singing just yet. That would come a little later. On my studio albums ranked of Split Enz, which was the very first proper video I did on this channel, I ranked this in my top 3. And I said that my top 3 could switch at any time. So sometimes this would even be my favourite Split Enz album, depending on what day of the week you ask me. So many great songs on this album. Bold as Brass. My Mistake was the first sort of decent sized hit single that they ever had in Australia. Parrot Fashion Love is great. Sugar and Spice, without a doubt, wonderful side out one closer. And then side 2 you have Crosswords, you have Charlie, which is just an intense song. Nice to Know, and then Jamboree, sort of a jammy song to finish the album. It's a great, great album. I really, really love it. The next album we're going to have a look at is having its 35th anniversary in the month of August. It was originally released on the 29th of August 1987, and that is Sentimental Hygiene by Warren Zevon. Probably my favourite Warren Zevon album. I do want to do a Warren Zevon studio albums ranked at some stage. It's going to be a really difficult one to rank because all of his albums are really good. There are no stinkers in the Warren Zevon catalogue, and it's a big catalogue too. Even though he sadly left us in the early 2000s, he left a large recorded legacy. But this one is the one that I probably go back to the most. Just a great album. Sentimental Hygiene, the title track, is wonderful. Boom Boom Mancini is just an incredible song. The Factory is really good. Trouble Waiting to Happen, Reconsider Me is a beautiful song. Detox Mansion is a great song. It's really kind of funny too. There would always be a sort of a dark humour in a lot of Warren Zevon songs because he did struggle with drug and alcohol abuse, and so Detox Mansion, you think it could be a really serious song, but he's actually got this very sort of dark humour to it. Bad Karma is a great song. Even the Dog Can Shake Hands. The Heartache, and then Leave My Monkey Alone. He kind of gets into an electronic sort of groove, which is quite unusual for Warren Zevon, but it works on that song. The next album we're going to look at is also having its 35th anniversary in the month of August. It was originally released on the 31st of August 1987, and that is Bad by Michael Jackson. The long-awaited follow-up to Thriller, which of course was the greatest selling album of all time. Sold something like 70 million copies, Thriller. Bad sold only 35 million copies, so it was considered a bit of a disappointment, but I think any other artist in the world would have been incredibly happy to sell 35 million copies of an album. And it is a good album. It's a worthy follow-up to Thriller, I think. The title track Bad is great. The Way You Make Me Feel is really good. Speed Demon, Liberian Girl, Man in the Mirror is wonderful, and Smooth Criminal, one of my favourite Michael Jackson songs of all time. Wonderful album. And then the last album we're going to look at today was released on the very same day, so it's also having its 35th anniversary in the month of August. It was released on the 31st of August 1987, exactly the same as Bad, and that is Document by R.E.M. This is their last album that they did for IRS Records before they leapt over to major label Warner Brothers. I love the stuff that they did with Warner Brothers, but I do have a special soft spot for the IRS years of R.E.M. It's where I first got into the band, was a couple of albums before this. But this is the album that was really crossing them over from that alternative rock scene into the mainstream, because it had the big hit The One I Love on it. But it's also got Finest Work Song, which is great, Welcome to the Occupation, Exhuming McCarthy, really good song, Disturbance at the Heron House, It's the End of the World as We Know It, everybody knows that song, Fireplace, Lightning Hopkins, King of Birds, Oddfellows Local 151. It's an excellent album. So those are my anniversary albums for August 2022. In the comments, please let me know which of these albums are your favourites, maybe even which albums you don't care for so much. Also, please let me know which albums I may have forgotten to put in this list, because I know I always try to keep the list to 10. So there's always albums that I'm going to have left out. So please let me know which ones I've left out. I love reading that. Sometimes they're ones that I know that I left out. Sometimes I go, oh, how did I forget this album? And I actually really like that because it makes me go back and listen to those albums. I love reading the comments. So please, yeah, leave me a comment and let me know what you thought. Please like, share and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. If you're new to the channel, please go and have a look at some of my other videos. All of my videos are playlisted, so if you go to the playlist tab in my channel. You'll find a playlist for all my anniversary album shows. You'll find a playlist for my studio albums ranked, a playlist for my In Defense Of shows, a playlist for my favorite albums of all time, playlist for my reviews, etc, etc. And you can go and have a look and see my whole catalogue and have a watch of whatever you think might interest you. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at bicyclelegs on Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, I'm mostly posting the records or albums I happen to be listening to at the time, as well as posting channel updates. On Twitter, I tend to talk about anything and everything, but I am definitely trying to give that more of a music focus. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.